Live. Oop.
Oh gosh, what's all this dirt on
Alright. You're live.
you? Alright, cool. Hey guys, it's Dean and Tron. It's Wednesday, 12 p.m. Central Time. So we are doing our Wednesday workout. If you are here live right now, hopefully you can leave a comment and let me know where you are. Just leave a quick comment, tell me where you are in the United States, Canada, anywhere else, Australia, UK, Germany, France, I don't know. Leave a comment, let me know where you are. And today we're going to be going through some exercises to work on your shoulder mobility. So this is a really important topic for guys who want to stay active but who have office jobs and who are spending time on the computer during the day. Shoulder mobility is a big issue here because when you're in that computer position, right, when you're here, we're doing a lot of stuff where your shoulders are forward like this, the chest is tightening, the back is overstretching. We're not really, all of these muscles kind of right around your armpit are getting really tight, so that includes your lats, that includes the chest, so your pecs, that includes your rotator cuff, the shoulders. So all those muscles just tend to get really tight when you're sitting at a desk during the day, and as a result, it really hinders your performance when it comes to anything upper body. So it's tough to do things overhead. So things like shoulder press overhead, so you can do, just like a basic shoulder press overhead, that gets difficult because you don't have that mobility. If it comes to pull-ups, that's also difficult. Even push-ups tend to get bad because when you're doing a push-up, you tend to default to what you were doing during the day, which is right this shoulder rounding forward thing. And as a result, your shoulders are forward. You're not pushing with your shoulders on either side of your chest. And so that means that you're overloading the front part of your body, right? If you look at this position for a push-up, this is really bad for your shoulders. So it's important to work on that shoulder mobility, not just to make sure you have the necessary range of motion for exercises, but also to kind of reset your body and make sure that your arms and your shoulders are in the right position when you're doing these basic exercises. So today I'm going to show you a few exercises to work on getting your shoulders back to where they should be, and also just getting your shoulders, improving the range of motion of your shoulders so that you have that adequate range of motion for these basic exercises. All right, let's get into it. So first thing I'm going to have you do is a child's pose, and if you don't want to get on the ground, you can also use a wall. So for the child's pose, you're going to go knees down, big toes touching. You're going to keep your chest neutral, and it's really important that you keep your chest neutral and not splay open your chest. So try to keep your abs tight and ribs drawn in, and then bring your arms out in front of you like this. Relax your forehead on the ground, and start to lift your arms away from the ground. So you're not actually going to lift your arms off the ground, but just start to try to lift your arms away from the ground, and you're going to notice that your upper back muscles start to engage. So part of mobility and opening up your shoulders is stretching the muscles in your chest, but the other part of it is engaging the muscles in your upper back, right? So you're opening up the muscles and stretching the muscles in the front of the torso, but engaging or flexing the muscles in the upper back. And what that's going to do is start to pull the shoulders back into the right position. So again, forehead's down, arms are squeezing up like they're going to lift away from the ground, and I'm feeling the stretch through my chest. One other thing I like to do in a child, pull the hips back away from the shoulders as much as possible, and that's going to help stretching around the armpit area. So I want to make myself as long as I can from my hands to my hips. So again, I'm going to pull my hips back, and that should feel some stretching in the upper back as well as the chest. Next variation of child's pose we're going to do is called a puppy pose. So if you have two blocks, grab two blocks. By the way, if you can't get down on the ground right now, you can also do this on a wall. So my camera angle isn't going to let me do this, but basically, I'm going to face the wall, and I'm going to go like this. And this is called a down dog on the wall. And I'm basically going to do kind of the same that I was doing with child's pose, but I'm just going to bring my hands on the wall like this, squeeze my arms up as high as I can, and then push my hands into the wall while pulling my hips back. And that's going to create a very similar stretch. So next variation of child's pose, we're going to do a puppy pose. It's called puppy pose because it's somewhere between a child's pose and a down dog, right? So it's a child dog, puppy, get it? All right, it's one pose that actually makes sense, or a pose name that actually makes sense. So we're gonna do child's pose again. This time you're gonna have your hands on top of the blocks. You have different settings on your blocks, so you can do it at a lower setting, you can do it at a medium setting, or you can do it all the way at tall setting. Most likely you can jump straight to the tall setting for this. If you have free blocks, I know you don't have free blocks, not everybody does, but you can also use a block to rest your forehead on for this. So what we're gonna do, hands on top of the blocks. The way I like to grip the block here is like this. I like to have my fingers come over the top and kind of grab the block, so I've got some active grip. So I'm gonna do that. And then relax my forehead toward the ground. This is where the block can come in handy, so that third block, or stack of books if you're using that. I just like to rest my forehead on the block here. That way my neck's just not hanging awkwardly. So, puppy pose. This is puppy pose. So I'm getting a little more opening through my chest here. Again, I'm gonna pretend like I'm lifting the blocks away from the ground. Right, so before you were lifting your hands away from the ground, now maybe you're pretending to lift the blocks away from the ground, and that's going to help open up the shoulders even more. So I'm stretching through the chest, but again, not just stretching through my chest, I'm also engaging my upper back muscles. So I'm feeling the muscles between my shoulder blades working here as I pretend to lift the blocks off the ground. Abs stay tight, and you might not need this block if you feel like your forehead can go down. So now mine can go down. And the longer you hold the pose, the more your body is going to sink into it, right? So maybe you start off and your head's off the ground, but maybe after a few breaths, your head does get all the way down to the ground. And I'm feeling this now in my upper back, a little bit stretching to the chest. Again, if I pull my hips further back and try to get my hips further away from my hands, making a long line as long as possible from my hands to my hips, that's gonna help target the chest and my lats a little bit more. So this is great for after push-ups. This is great also after pull-ups. All right, and then we're gonna move out of this, and I'm gonna have you find a wall for the next one. This is just a basic pectoral stretch, but it's one that really everybody needs. Very good for opening up the chest, this whole area from your sternum to the shoulder. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go against the wall. You're gonna make a 90-degree bend with your elbow, make it level with the shoulder. I don't know why this is so complicated, but whenever I tell people to do this, for some reason, they go up here or their arm is straight, but bend your arm 90 degrees, really freaking simple. Put it against the wall, and then look the other way. Now start to pull your chest away from your elbow. So I'm pulling my torso away from my left elbow, and then looking over. And now I'm gonna feel a really nice stretch to the chest. I'm also going to try and engage my upper back here, right? So we talked about how stretching is opening up, or stretching is complemented by engagement of the opposing muscle group, right? So I'm stretching through my chest, but I'm engaging the muscles in my upper back. So I want to try and feel these muscles here on the inside of my shoulder blade engaging, right? So flexing those muscles to help open up my chest a little bit more. If you want, you can also put your hand on the wall here for a little bit more support. And then if you want to open up your neck a little bit here, I recommend leaning your right ear toward your right shoulder. So if I'm stretching the left side of my chest, I'm going to lean my right ear toward my right shoulder. And then again, trying to pull that chest, pulling the whole torso away from the elbow. And this is just going to be a really nice stretch from my chest, my shoulders, and also the neck. If you can, lean your head away. Sometimes it helps to kind of grab the top of your head here with your right hand and just pull it down a little bit. Just force it to get into that position. Not forcing it, but just giving it a little bit of a manual assist. And this one I would recommend holding for at least a minute, because you spend a lot of time in a poor position when you're sitting at a desk. You need more than just 15 seconds to stretch properly. All right, so now opposite side. So you're gonna go, again, 90-degree bend with the elbow, go flat against the wall. You're gonna turn away from your right arm. I'm gonna lightly press my chest toward the wall while pulling my torso away from my right elbow. I'm gonna try to engage my upper back on my right side, so engaging my right kind of shoulder blade. And then, if I can, leaning my head, woo, that's tight. Leaning my head, my left ear toward my left shoulder. Maybe giving a little bit of a manual assist. Just opening up there, crack, crack, crack. And then again, holding this for a minimum of 1 minute. So I'm trying to pull my chest away from my right elbow, lightly pressing my right arm into the wall, If you want a little bit more, you can push your left hand into the wall here. And then again with the neck, opening up the traps in your shoulder. Actually, this is getting more sternocleidomastoid here. But if you lean away like that, then that's going to help open up your neck as well. That might also be a little bit of levator scapula involved. So basically stretching from the shoulder, the chest, and the neck. So this is a really nice stretch that targets a lot in your upper body. Remember to breathe deeply as you're doing this, so nice and controlled in and out of the nose. All right, and then release. Okay, one other stretch we're gonna do is a hands interlaced behind the back or a strap. Edward, can you grab me a strap? All right, so the first variation of this, if you can get your fingers interlaced behind your back, you're going to get your fingers behind your back like this. Push your palms together. One thing that helps before you actually interlace the fingers behind your back is reaching back and trying to reach your arms up and back, almost like you're pressing your palms together without actually bending your elbows, right? But reaching back, feeling the muscles between, or the muscles on the outsides of your shoulder blades and inside your shoulder blades engage as you squeeze your arms as back as far as you can. You can also bend your elbows here, like you're gonna try and get your elbows to touch. And this is a really good foundation for doing this stretch. So instead of just getting your hands behind your back and interlacing like this, like just kind of like trying to get your hands there, we're actually being active and reaching back. And then we actually have active mobility here. Active mobility is much preferable to passive mobility. So this is a really good way to not just open the chest, but also strengthen your back. So I'm reaching back like this, reaching, maybe bending the elbows, squeezing my elbows toward one another. Now, if I can, I'm gonna grab, right, I'm gonna interlace my fingers, press my palms together, and then reach down, squeeze the elbows toward one another, and now lift my chest up like I'm pulling my torso up and through my arms. And I'm just gonna hold this here. If you look at my elbows here, they're squeezing toward one another. I'm not letting them relax like this. And if you look at my shoulders are pulled back so that my arms and my shoulders are on either side of my torso, right? They're not rounding forward like this. I want to get them into that good position with good posture. Now, if you can't do this, if this is difficult and you can't get your palms together while keeping your chest open and the shoulders in the right position, this is where the strap comes in. So for this, I'm going to hold the strap behind my back. I'm going to start at shoulder width distant, do everything that I just did without the strap, right? So elbows squeezing back toward one another, getting my chest open, pulling the shoulder blades toward one another. And then I'm going to lift the strap away from my back. And again, try to pull my chest up and through my arms. So this is what I'm going to do. If I can't interlace my fingers, I'm going to use a strap. And as my flexibility improves here, then I can start to bring my hands closer together, right, like this, as opposed to a little bit further apart. So I'm going to work my hands maybe a little bit toward hip width distant. And again, if you look at my shoulders, they're pulling back and down, right? They're not rounding forward. So I'm stretching my chest and stretching my back here. All right, so that's number 4. Final stretch I'm going to show you, right? We've got pretty much everything, right? We got the arms out in front. We had the first stretch, we had the arms overhead, right? And then we had the arms behind the back, right? So we're basically getting into positions that our arms aren't usually in while we're in that typing position on the computer. Last one we're going to do is arms overhead and reaching up and over. So this is called a standing side bend. But I want to have active mobility here, right? So I've been talking about active mobility, about muscle engagement as opposed to passive stretching. The way we're going to do that, a lot of side bends involve interlacing your fingers and pressing the fingers up. We're going to do a little bit differently. So I'm going to have you start in just a neutral stance. If you want your toes touching, go for it. If you want your feet about 6 inches apart, that's fine. Doesn't make a big difference. You're going to bring your arms up overhead and then squeeze your arms as far as you can toward the back without bending your back or splaying open your chest. All right, so I'm going to squeeze my arms back as far as I can, and you might not get that far. If you notice that your shoulders are shrugging up near your ears, you can bend your elbows a little bit. Okay, so kind of relax the arms. And then again, squeezing back. If that's still difficult, get a block, hold the block between your arms like so, and then squeeze back. This is going to help you get into this. It's going to help with active mobility, It's also gonna help if you have a little bit less shoulder mobility than is optimal. All right, so now arms are squeezing back, and then I'm gonna lean to one side and stay nice and tall here. All right, so lifting, or keeping the ribs drawn in, but squeezing my arms back as far as possible, pressing my head up and staying really tall here. So I'm not gonna collapse, right? I'm not just collapsing to the side. I wanna stay tall, pressing the top of the head as high as you can up, squeezing the arms back, keeping your abs tight, keeping the ribs drawn in, and then maybe holding this for 30 seconds. This should be very active. This shouldn't be passive. This shouldn't be easy. This should be pretty intense. And then coming back to the middle, and then maybe switching up the grip. So if you want to go a little bit thinner on the block, maybe I go here on the block with my arms overhead, or maybe you don't need the block at all, and you can press your palms together overhead like this. And then again, we're trying to squeeze the arms back here, so I want to make sure that I'm not arching my back like this to get my arms overhead, but keeping my ribs drawn in, and then squeezing my arms back using the strength of my upper back. So I should feel the muscles between my shoulder blades and my upper back really working hard to get my arms back here. Squeeze, 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 tighten the abs, make sure the neck is relaxed, and then lean up and over. Again, pushing your head toward the ceiling, pushing up and over. Arms squeezing back, head as tall as it can be. As I inhale, I'm gonna get a little bit taller. As I exhale, I'm gonna sink into this a little bit. Inhale, taller. Exhale, sink into it. And again, I'm gonna do that for about 30 seconds. All right, so after all of that, you should feel much more open through the chest, right? Your shoulders should feel like they're pulling back. You should feel a little bit taller. Maybe you stand as you're walking, you notice that you're feeling a little bit more confident. That's all normal. That should be what you're feeling after you do this. And then opening up your chest, just getting your arms overhead, that's going to make you feel more energized as well. So this is a really good way to improve energy. So it's great to do kind of right around now, right between your lunch break, between when you usually hit that afternoon crash, and after you've been up for a few hours. So this is a really nice way to recharge, to fix your posture for exercise later in the day, or just to make sure that you are staying up nice and tall and maintaining good posture while you're sitting. So this actually does help when you go back to your desk today. After you do this, you should notice that you're sitting up a little bit taller in your chair. And if you do notice that you start to go back to that normal kind of slouching position, try to remember that feeling of what we did today, staying up nice and tall, keeping the shoulders pulled down and back, pulling the neck back. That's one thing we didn't talk about, but you do want to have that neck pulled back and the chin relaxed toward the throat. So doing this is going to help you actually increase your subconscious posture. So even if you don't really think about it much, you're going to sit with better posture. But I do recommend trying to think about this throughout the day, because you are going to notice a big difference when you start thinking more about your posture. You'll have less back pain, your shoulders are going to feel better, especially during exercise, and you're going to feel more energetic, more confident. When your body gets into this position of slouching and rounding, it creates negative emotions. I mean, this is just what happens. So when you sit up with good posture, your body actually creates, your body is actually in a better mood. So your body affects how your brain feels, it affects your emotions, it affects your mood. So if you're staying up nice and tall, you're gonna feel happy, you're gonna feel confident, you're gonna feel much better. And all these exercises will help with that. So again, just a quick review on the exercises we did. We had the child's pose, right? So we're down on the ground like so. And this is kind of like just level 1. Level 2, we went up to puppy pose using the blocks, like so. Level 3, we had the pec stretch on the wall, right? So this is really important for opening up your chest and keeping your shoulders healthy. Number 4, we did the strap behind the back, or if you don't need the strap, then just the hands in your waist behind the back, right? Reaching away, shoulders pulled down and back, elbows squeezing toward one another. And then lastly, we had an active standing side bend. So the palms pressing together instead of fingers interlaced, or using a block overhead. And those are 5 exercises that you can do pretty much any time with zero equipment to improve your shoulder mobility, to increase your energy and also to prevent injury in your shoulders and maintain better posture. So, thanks for tuning in today. I'm gonna go to the questions really quick now because I'm hoping there are some comments or some questions. I do wanna mention though, we've got our Father's Day sale going on right now. This is the last day to save 20% on any plane to the members area. To learn more, go to manfulyoga.com. And if you're not familiar with the members area, this is where I put all of my content. So if you send me questions and ask me for programs or ask me for full workouts or more workouts or workouts for specific problems like solving back pain or strengthening your knees, this is where I put all of that content. In addition to the workouts, it's full programs. So they're actually scheduled programs that you can follow for 2, 3, 4, even 6 months at a time. And you can expect results from those programs. So again, learn more at manfulyoga.com. Use the code Father's Day, no apostrophe, no space, no caps, to save 20% now. Again, that's ending today. All right, questions? What do we got?
I think it was Clayton wanted to know how often these live classes are.
These live classes are usually every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Time. Sometimes stuff comes up or I have other stuff going on, so I don't always do it, but usually we try to do it if I'm in town and if we don't have another thing that we want to talk about that day. We do these every Wednesday at 12 p.m. And they're on Facebook, they're on YouTube, and if Instagram decides to work, then they'll be on Instagram too.
It's with the wall pec stretch. Can't seem to get the back muscle going.
Mm-hmm.
Pecs get a good stretch though. Why is that?
Sometimes if you just haven't done a lot of strengthening for your upper back, you just don't have that muscle activation yet. You just haven't built those neural pathways. So I'd recommend if you can't engage those muscles, you can try from a position like this, just doing a row exercise like this. Try to squeeze your shoulder blades, pull the elbows in tight, squeeze the elbows back as far as you can and pull your shoulder blades together. And that should help with building that muscle activation. If that doesn't work, you're probably going to need to get some resistance training. If you don't have that muscle activation, it could be because you don't do any resistance training. So if you don't do any rowing exercises, if you don't do any pull-ups, it's going to be difficult for you to engage those muscles. So make sure that that you're doing more than just yoga. You should be doing yoga. You should be doing resistance training. You should be doing some sort of pulling exercise to also keep your shoulders healthy. So that's what I recommend.
Let's see here. I believe it was on the overhead stretch. Are the lats stretching here or the pelvic muscles or both? I'd love to know.
So if you're in a child's pose, you will feel some stretching in your hips. I would say, when the arm's overhead, if you feel stretching in your pelvic muscles, that's probably because you're pushing your hips forward like this, and that's wrong. You shouldn't be pushing your hips forward. You should be keeping your hips right above your heels. You should be keeping a neutral stance. You're gonna feel this in your lats if you're doing this properly. So when you do a back bend, make sure that you're keeping your hips above your heels. Kaya, you're snoring. Cut it out. So make sure that you're not doing this when you're doing a back bend, right? Pressing the hips forward and letting the knees bend, but you're keeping your abs tight and you're focusing on squeezing the arms back. And again, not pressing your hips forward. So it's that overhead stretch, that standing side bend, that standing back bend pose. That's a shoulder stretch for your lats, not your hips. Cool. All right. So any other questions? I'll stay on for like 30 seconds just if anybody else has any questions. I can also talk about what's going on in Manful Yoga World. We've got a workshop coming up in Chicago on July 15th. So if you are in the Chicago area, or if you want to drive a couple of hours and come see me and come do a workshop, I invite you to join me. This is free for members of the members area. It's just $15 for other people. But we're going to go over kind of what I think makes yoga really effective. And this is something that's not taught by anybody else I've ever seen. This workshop is called the Yoga Strength X Factor. So we're really going to be focusing on how yoga can... Kaya! Stop snoring. Good girl. So we're really going to be focusing on how yoga can help improve your muscle activation. So helping with your glute activation to help protect your knees, helping with your hip activation to help not only strengthen your knees, but also improve your squats, improve your deadlift, improve your yoga workout, so making your yoga workouts more efficient, getting a better workout, actually building more muscle, improving mobility. And we're also focusing on active mobility during these workshops. So we're gonna be talking about how to make yoga more focused on the active mobility as opposed to passive mobility or passive flexibility, which is the trend with yoga. So I'm gonna show you how to be more active with your mobility, which helps with getting you stronger. It helps actually improve your passive flexibility as well, and it helps with injury prevention much more. So it's gonna be a cool workshop. Go to manfulyoga.com/blog and just check the recent blogs, and you'll find the more workshop information there for Chicago.
One more question from ND.
Mhm.
Do you do yoga, or do you do both lifting and yoga?
Well, I obviously do yoga, because I was just doing it. But I do yoga and lifting. For a few years, I wasn't doing any lifting, and the reason why I started back up again was because I noticed that my shoulders weren't very healthy. I was doing way too much pushing exercises, not enough pulling exercises. So yeah, I do lifting too, but not much. I really only do 2 lifting workouts a week for about 30 minutes. So I'm not in the gym 5 times a week. About 75 to 80% of what I do is yoga. I do recommend that you do yoga and resistance training because, again, yoga is all pushing. There is no pulling in yoga, which means that you're going to have a weak upper back, you'll have weak biceps, and you'll have weak wrists if you're only doing yoga. So you need to make sure that you're doing something where you're actually gripping something and pulling something, or pulling down, or doing rowing, and that's going to help make sure that you're getting the muscles that you don't exercise while doing yoga. Cool. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. If you're watching this later on, if it's not live anymore, just leave a comment. I'll get back to you as soon as I can if you leave a question. And then again, join me on Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Central Time. We do these almost every week that I'm here at least. And yeah, Father's Day sale ending today, so take advantage of that. manfulyoga.com/dad for that. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for coming, and have a good day.